Hello and welcome to a new vlog and a video. In cooperation with ReiseJung, we're taking a look at days 3 and 4 of our first cruise with the River Diamond. We started in Mainz and visited Speyer in the last video. Now we're continuing on to Strasbourg and Huningue, close to Basel, and then we're heading back via Breisach and Germersheim to Hanau in the next video. So here we are in Strasbourg. In Strasbourg the port is quite far away from the city center, so there was a transfer option for our guests, as well as a guided tour through Strasbourg. I was joining the transfer to give some explanations on what you can do in Strasbourg, and after that I visited my favorite restaurant or cafe, which is the Salon de Thé chez Christian. It's in a most touristy location, the whole city, right in front of the cathedral, but it's so hidden that it's not a touristy place, therefore I really like to visit it. And then we continued our walk through Strasbourg, through the Petit France and the main shopping street. The main shopping street there is my favorite bakery. It's called L'Atelier Saint-Cèze, as you can see, even with the queue outside, but it's worth the wait. And then it was slowly already time to head back to the beautiful River Diamond. After lunch we continued the day with another excursion, this time on the wine road. It's a route that will bring you through vineyards and a lot of very beautiful villages here in the Alsace region, close to the Vosges mountains, and it's a quite scenic ride. Very nice panoramic tour, but of course we're also gonna visit one of the most beautiful villages called Riquewihr, and of course we're gonna enjoy a wine tasting there as well. Here we've reached the Riquewihr, and as I said, we're gonna enjoy a wine tasting there. To get there, we have to go through the beautiful city center of Riquewihr with a lot of half-timbered houses, very colorful houses. In summer it is an extremely touristy place, but now in March it was quite nice and empty, also because the weather was not perfect on this day. But we visited the local winemaker Zimmer for a wine tasting of 3 Grand Cru wines, which is the highest class of wines in France, and then it was slowly time to head back to the bus, which then brought us back to the River Diamond. So I've mentioned that this is our first cruise of the season, bringing us to the Upper Rhine, which is a wine paradise, but we had a second topic on this cruise and that was simply the best. We had a Tina Turner tribute singer on board. She's called Pamela O'Neal, and today was her first evening with a show, and after a fantastic dinner it was showtime, and of course we're gonna take a look at her show and listen to her. So enjoy Simply the Best. So as you can hear, a fantastic voice. It was a great evening, and that was only the first part. In the first part she was strictly singing Tina Turner songs, and in the second part she was singing also some other party and dancing songs. So also the second part was fantastic with great atmosphere, and of course our guests loved her. So it was a fantastic evening, and of course we're gonna listen to the second part as well.
We are
After a fantastic evening, it was then time to go to sleep, and whilst we left Strasbourg, during dinner, we were still on our way to Huningue, close to Basel on the second day. We're due to arrive there in the afternoon. So the morning was quite relaxed on the Rhine. It's not too spectacular to sail on the Upper Rhine as it is canalized. As you can see, the landscape is not too spectacular, but the weather was nice, so it was still a very nice and relaxed morning. Most spectacular part of sailing on the Upper Rhine is going through the locks. There are quite a few locks here on the Rhine River, and it's always spectacular to go in those locks with a big cruise ship. Here in this case we're even the second ship in a lock, so that's gonna be a tight fit. There are just a few centimeters of space in each direction, so it is a quite spectacular maneuver. After lunch we reached our berth here in Huningue, which is in France, but it's only around 200 meters away from some of the berths of the city of Basel. It's just on the other side of the river, and our guests didn't have to worry about how to get to Basel as the city tour was already included. So with 3 coaches of the company SEG from Switzerland, we firstly crossed the border from France to Germany and then on from Germany to Switzerland. There we picked up our guides and we had guided tour through Basel for around 1 hour. After that, the guests could decide whether they want to stay in the city for around 3 hours of free time, or to book a guided walking tour through the city center, or to go directly back to the ship. Already the bus tour is very interesting. There are quite a few beautiful sites here in Basel, like the Spalen Gate, which we can see here. Of course, all those sites were perfectly explained by our guides. For this excursion we made sure to get the best guides available, so I booked my favorite guides here in Basel, and then my boss Linda was perfectly explaining all the beautiful buildings and sites here in Basel. We're already close to the city center, but we're leaving the city center again because there are some sites outside of the city center, which are mainly the La Roche Towers, the big skyscrapers, which we can see here. And it's quite interesting because there's a road between those 2 skyscrapers, which we are taking here, and then we're slowly getting back to the city center. Before leaving the bus, there is one highlight right at the end of the bus tour, which is crossing the Wettstein Bridge, because from there you have the most beautiful view of the city center of Basel. Here you can see this picture perfect view of Basel. And just a few seconds later we left the bus at the Tinguely fountain, one of the most famous fountains here in Basel. And whilst a few of our guests joined Linda for a walking tour, we discovered Basel on our own. One of the must-sees is the cathedral and also the square in front and behind the cathedral. Behind the cathedral is the so-called Pfalz, and from there you have this fantastic view down to the river and to the other side of the river with the so-called Klein Basel. Here we have the square in front of the cathedral, also worth seeing, and from there you can walk down a street called Rheinsprung. Also from this street you have fantastic views to the Rhine, and there are also a lot of very, very beautiful buildings. So Basel is always worth seeing. Even if you've been there a couple of times, it's still very, very beautiful. And from the Rheinsprung street you can easily head down to the market square, and there you can see the famous red city hall, one of the most famous buildings of Basel, and you can even see the inner court for free. And of course you cannot miss the city hall, as it is one of the most extraordinary buildings in the city, directly located at the market square. Directly behind the market square is the so-called Freie Straße, which is the main shopping street, but as we were here on a Sunday, shops were closed, so it was time to visit one of the countless museums of Basel. But we had other plans. We visited the Le Trois Rois, which is one of the best, or probably the best hotel in the city, 5-star hotel of course, and there we stayed for a nice drink at the hotel bar. Here we are back at the Tanguy Fountain, and that means that we are now also already back at the meeting point with our coaches. They will now bring us back past the Spalen Gate to the border with Germany first, and then to the border with France, and back to our beautiful River Diamond. As soon as everybody was on board, it was also time to leave Huningue and head downstream, continuing on in the direction of our next destination, which is Breisach in Germany. In the evening it was then time for yet another fantastic dinner on board. Also today, of course, the food was amazing, and there was no evening program on this day, but of course there also have to be some relaxing evenings, as we had great entertainment yesterday, and there will be another fantastic evening with Pamela O'Neal on the next evening. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. So here you can see in the next video where we will take a look at the last days on board. The first cruise will be uploaded, and the name of the song, as always, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, or share the video link, and I hope to see you in my next video then, or maybe one day on board of one of our cruises. In the video description you can find a link to ReiseJung, where you can take a look at our cruises.